We good? All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:03 PM. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Jack Heineman,
Here.
Kristen Runge,
Here?
Al Dasso,
Here.
David Kennedy is online. Todd McCulloch is absent, and Abigail Zellner.
Here. All right, next item on the agenda is minutes. Do we have any corrections or deletions from the minutes? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve? Oh, you need to turn your mic on, Jack. There you go.
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is public comment. Do we have anybody online who would like to make a comment? And we have no one in the audience, so I will assume that no one in the audience wants to make a comment. So let's move to business items. Item number 1, discuss and take action on updates to the Wanakee Housing Betterment Fund Program policy. And this is to you, Lauren and Kylie.
Yes. Hi, guys. Hopefully over the last few months, you had time to look at the same updates that have been rolling and we're really excited. We had gotten an application for a project that they didn't qualify because of their income. And as we were looking through the policy, we talk about the income and what qualifies that, but it was not clear. It was not clear to the public on what really so these people went through a whole thing and ended up, it wouldn't have been worth it for them to apply anyways. So we just kind of made a couple tweaks to very clearly show what qualifies you and what the guidelines are for income and the housing value. So we are just looking and we're updating, what's the other part of this? We are updating the pre-documentation checklist to include a copy of their most recent mortgage statement that just shows that they actually do live in the house, and that it's their primary residence. So that's just more of us. So we have that in the file.
Okay, is that the only substantive change?
That is the only substantive change this time.
Do we have any questions on that? Jack, any questions or comments?
No.
Abby?
None from me.
Al?
Yeah, I just want a point of clarification because normally when you see changes, you see red line changes to the document and I didn't see any red line changes. So
You did not, so I can forward that to you. 3 months ago, I do not recall why, maybe I just put the wrong one in and didn't notice it at the time and we've just been rolling over the packet. So I noticed that today when I was actually looking through the full packet at our notes. So I can send you the red line, but let me see if I can find exactly where the changes are, if you would like me to do that. On the matrix specifically, the income guidelines, so Appendix D, we clarified what it said at the bottom on what is eligible, what the values are, and tried to make that a little more clear. And then on Appendix C, we're including, that's the change. I apologize. The change that we included is that we are including that income guideline as Appendix D. That was not there before. The whole thing was not included, not just the bottom. So we added that and updated the language in the policy regarding that additional document.
That's page 21 of the packet, the income guidelines. And these are HUD guidelines, I
Correct,
believe. Yep.
correct.
I thank you for that, but just out of curiosity, you said you had only one applicant this time around.
Correct. Yeah, there wasn't, we don't know. We did just have another woman come in now. There hasn't been a ton of promotion on it. You know, when we first put it out, we did substantial promotion through the Tribune. People were waiting on it. They've been following it. So we had a lot of the major repairs. It's helped a ton of the older stock, which was the goal. I think another part is that the home values went up significantly the following year. So probably less people thought they qualified and less people did. As we were making changes too, we've changed this significantly over several meetings prior to our cancellation. So putting out promotion while we were making changes was not the best, but the woman that came in, that's going to be turning in an application, hopefully before our September meeting, saw it in her utility bill where we did put promotion. So it worked. It got, in the hands of someone we hoped. And we have a mailer that we're sending out to specifically the addresses that are under the value limit. So a postcard mailer will get in the mailbox of every house in the village that is at least underneath the value limit.
So I can appreciate that, but I would be, as I've said many times before, look for some proactive response, perhaps from the village, in that going to Nordgear and going to the senior center and going to the various employment base from employees who may benefit from that program and to promote that. Now, I think it's even more important when we go into the next step here.
Mhm.
But for this program, to be more proactive, I think would help generate some enthusiasm over it. I have no reason to believe Nordgear, but you go in there and say, hey, Nordgear, we have this terrific program. Would any of your employees benefit? If so, please come to a half-hour presentation or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have, like I said, we also have that PDF that we just did in the utilities, so we can continue to use that as, give copies to these employers to keep in their onboarding packets for their employees, even things like that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. We're building out that communication channel around this. That's great.
Yeah, I think the only other, the one that this, and another question, every time a new applicant comes in, there's something that's something different. Some of the projects that people are looking to do in people that do income qualify, some of them are not $4,000 projects, but are still unaffordable. And currently the program is written, we will only give $2,000 to $10,000. So a project has to be at least $4,000. So maybe revisiting the dollar amount limit.
Let's put that on the agenda next month. Yeah, I mean, I think when we originally crafted the program, we were envisioning that the repairs would be more expensive, but if somebody has $1,000 repair on a home and they can't afford it or need help affording it, then certainly we want to be there to help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every month we tweak it and it gets better.
It does. You never cover all the bases.
Absolutely. Other questions or comments? David, did you have anything? Don't hear an answer from online, so we'll assume no. All right, with that, then I do believe we need a motion to adopt the changes.
I'll make a motion that we recommend that the board approve the changes as submitted to Community Development Authority tonight. Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda then is back to the top. Monthly review and scoring of Wanakee Housing Betterment Fund applications, and we do not have any applications this month. All right, then on to item number 3, review of potential housing accessibility program options for Wanakee. And this is to you, Lauren, I believe.
All right, and I'm going to share my screen too, so we can kind of see the different programs here. Oh, can you give me permission? Thank you. Perfect. All right. While Kylie's getting that up, so I'm sure this has been a discussion before at the CDA, but so as you all know, the village started the Affordable Housing Fund, which is used by extending TIF districts. How the state statute kind of restricts these funds is that at least 75% of them must benefit affordable housing. And the state actually defines affordable housing as housing that costs no more than 30% of the household's gross monthly income. This definition is a little bit broad. I had some conversation with our village attorney on this, and he recommends, kind of looking at programs and projects on a case-by-case basis to determine if this will meet the Affordable Housing Fund. But I know there's interest by this group to continue exploring other programs or opportunities to utilize this funding. We have a healthy pot of money that I think we could find some additional projects to work on. So I kind of put together this memo to kind of explore some different options to utilize funding. And this is kind of summarizing some of the discussions this group has already had. I know you've had several presentations over the past year on programs. And then just through kind of staff discussion and research, we added some additional options. I think what would be helpful is to have this committee discuss and kind of pinpoint what's our next kind of project we want to focus on. And then staff can continue to do research and figure out, what that would look like for Wanakee. So the first program I want to highlight is the down payment assistance program. This is a really common program and more and more needed by first-time home buyers, especially. Getting that, down payment for a loan can be a really hard kind of gap to close for people. So I included a link to several programs kind of near here and within Wisconsin. One thing I'll note about Washington County's program is they actually have their recipients pay off their loan through volunteer work instead of actually just paying back the loan, which I thought was an interesting way to do it. That gets people invested in their community. And then we get help for places like, volunteer fire department and other areas that need volunteer help. So I thought that was an interesting program. Before I move on, any questions on the down payment? It's pretty straightforward. Different programs kind of do it different ways, but usually it's a forgivable loan for a down payment or could help with closing cost assistance. Some places do 0% loans, some do a certain percentage. So all of that could be kind of tailored to how we'd like to look at that.
All right. So questions about down payment assistance. Does anyone have questions? Yeah, we'll start with you, Al.
So I don't really have a question. I've always been a proponent of this program. And I did review Madison's, and they do a percentage at sale. So if, for example, in the illustration they use, I don't remember the exact number, if we give $25,000, it's a junior mortgage on the property. And to the extent the first mortgage is paid off and there's money left over, then the village recoups its whatever percentage of what they gave to the percentage of the initial value of the home. So if it's 11%, they get 11% of the sale proceeds at the end. So it becomes a self-perpetuating fund at that point in time, which was kind of interesting from my standpoint. There's a lot of discussion, though, as you mentioned, in what the intent is of what we're trying to do. But I am in favor of a down payment program because that is a big hurdle for young people and for the low income folks to, buy something. So I do believe that's a worthy program from my perspective.
Abby.
I agree with Al. I'm pretty familiar with the Washington County program. I happen to know somebody who actually was in their first class of recipients. And yeah, the Washington County now has a new firefighter and Humane Society volunteer as a result, which is pretty cool. And yeah, it's definitely going to keep them in their house for at least 5 years until they pay that off with their work. And yeah, I think it's a really interesting idea. I know they can kind of do a combination of both, from my understanding, is they can pay some of it down with actual money and also with their volunteer hours. And it's not just like any volunteering, it's like with specific organizations. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
Great. Jack, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think, I'm in favor of something like this. I just wonder how many, with the housing stack that we've got here, young people coming in, trying to buy some of this stuff. We're going to have a lot of young people applying for this program. Do we have the resources for it?
Yeah.
Is the big thing. I like the idea of, the volunteer. I like the idea of City of Madison, as Al was explaining, where we could potentially make kind of a green fund out of this, where it's self-perpetuating. And those are my thoughts.
Okay. David. Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
He's on.
No, he's on mute. Yeah. Might not have anything to add. All right. Yeah, I like the idea of a down payment assistance program. I think if one of the things we could do is just kind of do a dry run of, what our fund balance looks like now and when we accept the next, should we accept the next tranche of funding from the TIF? What does it look like if we're providing 10% or 5% down payments? How long would it last? Based on a presentation I went to by the somewhat newly minted Milwaukee Land Trust, they were saying that the houses that they were funding through down payment assistance, people were staying in them on average no longer or shorter than they were in regular homes. So people are moving every 8 years or selling every 8 years on average. That fund is coming back and turning, or that particular down payment is coming back and turning over. So maybe if we could talk a little bit more in depth at our next meeting about what that looks like.
Yeah.
And run some pretend numbers.
Absolutely.
So, all right. All right.
So a couple of the options in this memo. So community land trust is an interesting model. From my research, it looks like typically a nonprofit organization would run a land trust. But basically the CLT purchases a home, sells it at an affordable house to a family, and they maintain the rights to the home itself and lease the land to the home buyer. And then when the home buyer sells the house, they have to sell it at an affordable price, and they have kind of a metric they use to make sure they, still make some kind of profit on the home. But then that gets, it perpetuates affordable housing. So it's, when a house is built for affordable purposes, it might be affordable for the first family, but then, the assessment goes high and then the next family doesn't benefit from that. So this is a way to keep houses affordable in the community. And again, a couple links to some examples. It's a bit more of a complicated program and potentially would take a little bit more time to research, but definitely an interesting thing to explore.
Yeah. Reactions to that, Jack?
No, I think, I think they've got an interesting model.
Mhm.
Actually, talked to somebody at the land, gave them a call, and
Yeah.
I was anticipating that we'd have more of a presentation here.
Mhm.
So I didn't really pursue it, but it does sound like that would be a good model, or at least to explore. I guess depending upon how many of these affordable houses you have, what does that do to the tax base?
Mhm.
Yeah. that we're collecting, and it'd be interesting to kind of get an understanding of that as well, so that we've got a balance, because we do need, some entry level, mid-level and high level, housing. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to attract students to our schools, and that's
Yeah.
why people come here.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have that small kindergarten class compared to our senior class. And I have always worried that those lower numbers in our elementary school probably indicate that we are not an affordable community for people who have children in kindergarten, first, second, third grade.
Yeah.
And it would be really nice if we had options for those young families amongst others who might use it. Yeah, Abby, what are your thoughts? Excuse me.
Yeah, I agree. It's an interesting concept. I know Al has a lot more to say about it, which is much appreciated. So actually, if it's okay, I'd like to hear your commentary first before I ask questions, because you probably are gonna answer some of them.
So this is what excites me the most of all the programs. There's a lot of things we can do with it. When you get the nonprofit involved or the community land trust involved, and it doesn't have to be houses. It can be apartments that are condoed out. There are other ways to do this, so don't be blindsided by what you see here, because we have a lot of leeway and latitude to pull this off through a nonprofit. The other part is, you touched upon it, Jack, and that is, I don't know the answer to this, I can guess, But if a house is owned or real estate's owned by a tax exempt, is it also tax exempt for real estate taxes? So it does come off the payroll, which now is the ongoing effort of the village in not collecting real estate taxes on that project. So there's ongoing investment from the village in that perspective. But I do get excited about this. I did put together a graph illustration of what this meant. I know I've been approached by at least one property owner about doing something within the village of Wanakee. They tend to drag their feet quite a bit on something they would like to pull off. But I think there's a huge demand, and it's not just for the general public. It can be for school teachers. You know, I know we can't say it's just for school teachers, but you put it next to the school, or you put it next to the business park. You know, you can kind of cater to the project to that particular area. Now, you know, some of the folks around there will say, wait a second, you're putting low-income housing people into a section. You know, nobody wants low-income housing people in my neighborhood. Well, not really.
Excuse me, you know, I think it's not necessarily low
It's
income.
not.
It's workforce housing, and I think if we continue, if we bring low income, you know, it's a lot different than if it's workforce.
And thanks, Jack, for correcting me. I am only interested in workforce housing.
Yeah.
At this point, because that's what I think we need and giving assistance. Now, you're right, Jack, there's got to be a transition. You know, I often use the illustration of nursing home and memory care or assisted living and then memory care type, a campus environment. And you have certain functions around there, and you have perhaps a condo association or homeowner association wrapped around that. So everybody kind of protects the property within. And to kind of put up with the public of, you know, the image of, well, it's a neighborhood, it's designed for this reason. Well, no, it's just you and I trying to buy into the building. So I think we have a lot of latitude. It does take a little more work. I'm not sure how the nonprofit would be set up in court in relation to the village, who would be on the board, and how that would all work, and then the ongoing funding of that. But I do see a lot of advantages of doing that. I know there was a discussion about a developer. I can tell you developers will get their money. If you're looking for a benevolent developer, it just doesn't happen. They will get their money some way, somehow. So, you know, and I understand, but you know, what we're dealing with is not necessarily, we're trying to promote a cause, not a profit. So that's my 2 cents, but I am very excited about this one, obviously.
So a couple of the people that we had speak with us before, so Kelly Westland, who is now the assistant administrator up in Bayfield County and used to be with UW Extension, did a presentation along with Olivia from Madison Area Community Land Trust about, that was last winter, last fall maybe? Yeah. And I'll find that video and forward it to you. Kelly Westland, and then we didn't talk to Mariah Good from Door County, but she's the recently retired land use planner. Kelly started Check Built, which is in the Chequamegon Bay, and then Mariah Good was one of the team that started the Door County Housing Trust, different from the Door County Land Trust. So both of those folks have had recent experience in setting them up. They do kind of a combination of newly built in Door County homes, as we've talked about before, but then in the Chequamegon Bay, a lot of what they're doing is signing homes into the land trust. So if something goes into foreclosure and fits the definition of what could be missing middle housing, so not necessarily the 10,000 square foot bay home that goes into foreclosure, but the 3-bedroom, 2-car garage, family home that goes in. Anytime a house goes into foreclosure, the county has given the land trust first right of refusal on purchasing it. They rehabilitate it and then they land trust it out. So they own the land, of course, homeowner owns the home on itself. So I think there's some different models that might be interesting for us to dig into that could be both, new construction which is what we originally talk about, and that's a little bit longer development time. But then maybe if there are some instances of homes within the community that would be signed into the land trust in a different way. That scatter site development is a little bit different to build. In both instances, they launched nonprofits that were separate from their municipal organizations. And they were funded by municipal dollars. So I believe in Checkville, they had a grant from, I want to say it was USDA Rural Development, but don't count me in on that. And then I forget who exactly it was in Door County that helped them start their land trust. But I think there was a substantial investment from their community as from their county as well. So maybe those are some things to look into as we're kind of different models and different ways of doing it for our next couple of meetings.
So I'm not sure I caught all the names and all the different programs that you mentioned, Kristen. You kind of went on and on and on and on. And it was a little faster than I'm accustomed to, but that's okay. But, you know, my vision of funding would come from the extension of the TIF dollars, number one. And number two, and perhaps equally, if not more important, would be perhaps employers would fund it. It is a 501c3 and they do get a tax deduction for that. And what employers, if we said, hey, you know what, we want to put together a housing unit of X and, you know, and it fits in with your type of workforce, would you be willing to make a donation to get this thing up and running or to withstand it? And they might do that.
Founders Point in Sheboygan Falls was partially funded by, it was a combination of ARPA dollars and the major corporations. So I think Kohler contributed. Who else is in Sheboygan? It's one of the larger companies there.
Bemis.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we have a census of the workers in Nord Gear? Where do they live? You know, is there?
We don't have a
So if they're-
business specific census, but we do have census data that I pulled back in November that is in an update to the housing report that talks about who's commuting in and commuting out and where the
Yeah.
median income lies for our residents who commute elsewhere and our commuters who live elsewhere and commute here. And of course, those that live outside the community and commute here have a lower overall median income. We've got great jobs in town, don't get me wrong, but they don't pay as well as the jobs that people are taking that live here and work elsewhere.
I'm just
So we can
thinking
kinda
from the
get into that.
standpoint of, to your point, getting a business behind it. You know, if we had an understanding of this organization, you know, 30% of their people are living someplace else. You know, and I'm also thinking about it from business development. You know, if we want to bring in more business, you know, probably one of the things that these businesses are going to look at is where do I get my employees from? You know, so it'd be interesting. Yeah, I don't know if we can get it, but and maybe the
Okay.
report that you're looking at, you know, would suffice, but it would, I think it would be interesting from an attraction standpoint.
And again, I would probably bring in some of these employers and talk to them to see what it means, you know, whether it's a school district with the teachers, whether it's, and I don't mean to pick on Nord Gear, you know, what
No.
type of workers. But I do know there was an article in the Wall Street Journal a couple days ago that municipalities are paying people now to move into their areas. And the number that I saw in one case was $5,000. If you move into the village of Wanakee, we'll give you $5,000. So there is incentives already happening outside, much like all the other TIF and TIDs and everything else that's going on in regards to employees. And I forgot my second point. Sorry, I had 2 points. They were great points.
I guess, you know, just to expand, you know, on the business community. And if we do set up like this land trust or things like that, do we have control of the property in our business parks? You know, we own that property. You know, could we take some of that property and, to your point, put up a, you know, multifamily? You know, again, that's kind of serving that particular community from a business standpoint, because the workers are close and I don't know if that would be an option.
We don't own that. MLG owns that property or represents that property and there's a private owner for it, but we do have the money that we could land bank when land becomes residential, appropriate or residential zone land becomes available. With this, we could land bank and then put up RFPs for whatever it is that we want to do, a land trust, housing complex, whatever.
So, and again, you're starting to get in the weeds with some of the questions, but, you know, the developer develops, they gotta have so much land set aside for park development. We could certainly say that park and or housing development under the land trust format. The other aspect could be if farmer A says, hey, I want to sell my land, and developer says, hey, I want to develop it, and pays X dollars, we say, okay, tell you what, it's a great time. You're selling. Why don't you donate a part of that land to the land trust under charitable trust, and you get a charitable deduction for it. Now, it can be part sale, part gift, or whatever you want to call it, but it gives us a lot of latitude if we're willing to work with that format of setting it up. And again, my other point was it does bring people in, and what employer is going to say? What employer doesn't have trouble finding people at this point in time?
It would be nice if we could help that way.
Yep.
Employees would be more attracted to our businesses if they had the opportunity to buy a home. Yeah.
So are we asking these people to investigate?
I think we want more detail on land trusts.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Can do that.
all right. Next up is emergency rental assistance. And so the Wanakee Neighborhood Connection did come and make a presentation on that more, and I don't know if you want to sum up.
Yeah, so both the Wanakee Neighborhood Connection and the Wanakee, I struggle to say this, ecumenical board. Okay. They both provide emergency financial assistance in our community, whether it's helping to make a rent payment, gas, utilities, et cetera. And really it's kind of a stopgap in our community for people who are kind of in a kind of dire circumstance and just need, that help to get through that and get some financial breathing room. I think if, they came to the village board asking for assistance, and I think Kristen and I think the board seem to think that the CDA could maybe think through what kind of program could be helpful to them. I don't know if that's the Affordable Housing Fund. If we wanted to explore that further, I think the first question would be legally if the fund could be used for this, because it's not affordable housing. It's, assistance to folks who likely live in affordable housing, but, people go through different circumstances at all income levels. So just wanted to highlight that as another program in our community that is needing additional assistance, and whether we want to explore how to support that.
And when they, when Veronica came to us and talked about it, she said they have basically $1,000 a month in a fund that is all they're able to extend if people have some sort of emergency situation. Most of the situations that they're dealing with tend to be medical related. So somebody has an extended illness or an emergency room bill that takes them from being on the edge and being able to make their rent to suddenly being in arrears for their rent. The amount of money, when I asked her overall, how much would you need a year, a donation of $20,000 to $30,000 to the Neighbor to Neighbor Fund would patch them through for the year to be able to help people. She also emphasized that when they were asking for support for this, it would be limited to the people that live within the village. So even though they serve the Wanakee School District, this would be a fund that would be used for people who live within the borders of our municipality. We could ask her to come and make a presentation to us to talk about the need. I don't know how people feel about this. Is a little bit different than making a home affordable for a homeowner. It allows somebody to stay in a home that's already in the community, maybe has kids here, maybe has a job here. So thoughts on this? Yeah, Jack.
I think when we listened to, those two groups, they were giving out $500 a year to a person. And, rents are probably a little bit higher than $500 in Wanakee. And yeah, you could probably fix up a car so that they can, pay their rent. They really I didn't hear in their presentation that it was more of a medical situation. But I don't know what kind of program could we potentially set up to get these people out of that situation? because, basically, we would have some restrictions as well, right?
Yeah.
And does that make a difference? And we can argue, yes, it does make a difference, because it helps them through, but does it help them long-term? Get back, I don't know enough about it. But those are my concerns, as far as, moving forward with a program like this. And then, I think in my standpoint, if we can be good stewards of the tax dollars, right? And keep the taxes relatively consistent, that's a whole part of, rent, because if we say we're gonna raise our taxes, then the landlord is gonna raise the rent because it's part of the tax,
Yeah.
right? So, I think if we have responsible budgeting, that's what we could potentially do. I just don't know how, a program like what the municipality Wanakee has. I think spending our time more on the land trust and things like that is going to better suit, the community as we continue to grow. Those are my thoughts.
Thanks, Jack. Abby?
I agree with a lot of what Jack said. I don't know. I guess like you said, is this about keeping people in their homes that are here versus bringing people in? And also, would it only apply to renters? Or, I mean, people who have mortgages also, like, we would want them to stay in their home too, but so. I'm not as excited about this one as the land trust or the down payment assistance, but.
Yeah.
I'm not as excited either. I'm not sure it's within the village responsibility to do this. No doubt, I feel bad for the people requesting the money. Thank God I've never had to do it. But I know it's got to be tough on some of these folks. I think it's well housed within the two groups that were asking for the money. If they're asking for a one-time donation, I think that's a village board decision, not a CDA decision. And then they have the responsibility to the taxpayers as to whether or not it was a good investment. Everything that comes before us, likewise, everything that comes before the village board is public information. So, we're going to be asking for information, and they want that information disclosed to the public if someone asks, well, who's getting this money? And unless it's all fed through the neighborhood connection directly, as opposed to paying the landlord. Jack, you're correct that if we start giving money out, it does raise, property taxes, and that does have a certain spiral effect because landlords are going to make their money, like developers, like anybody, they're all going to make money on it. So, what's going to happen if real estate taxes go up, rent's going to go up. I don't know what program it fits. If there's a program that fits, that we can fit this into, I might be a little more excited about it because I think for 20, 30 grand a year, I think we can afford that, whether at this level, recommending to the village board. I just don't know what program it is, but for us to make a one-time contribution without having some parameters wrapped around it, it's tough for me to get behind it at this point in time.
Can I add one more thing?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I also am, from my experience, not personally, but from my work experience, there are a lot of these kind of programs out there already as well that are state level, federal level, et cetera, that it's not like these don't exist already too. So while these organizations maybe do need the money, I agree that it's not, I don't know that it's the village's place to step in there.
All right. Thank you. We'll boot it back to the village board and see if they want to do something with it. That's why we talk about it. All right, Lauren, what else you got for us?
The last kind of potential option is kind of more broad. It's basically partnering with developers to finance affordable housing development. Can look in a lot of different ways. And, I listed some options, whether it be helping developers take advantage of different financing sources or partnering with a developer on a development. Our attorney suggested potentially like issuing an RFP and working with selecting a developer to do affordable housing project. And then I did include some examples. Washington County, again, has done a lot of work on this and has some really great examples out there.
So thoughts on that? Abby, let's start with you.
Is there a way that this can get wrapped into the land trust at all?
Potentially.
Yeah, this is another one that I'm just more interested in the land trust, and if this is something that could feed into that or be part of that somehow, I think it's worth pursuing.
Yeah.
I'm with Abby on this. As I mentioned earlier, I don't know of any developer, no matter what program you give them, whether it's TID financing or whether it's just outright cash from the TID district, they make their money. And if you're looking for something benevolent from the developer, it's hard to get. So I think we're best off trying to pursue the land trust. I'd like to think there's some land developer out there, but you do need a developer if we're going to start anew with that land trust. Someone's got to start doing the development, and no one at this table knows how to develop properties. So that would be a component of that process if we go new.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
the same. Let's focus at least on the land trust, at this point. And if we see that it's not going in our direction, or we find some things that aren't what we thought they were, then we can look at some of these other things, I would suspect.
So we've got consensus around the land trust. It sounded like we had consensus around down payment assistance as well.
Yes.
So I think those are the two maybe that we'll explore for next time and dig in a little bit deeper.
Is there anything I missed, like from the presentations you received or any discussion? Are there any other programs or ideas that I missed?
I think this has covered the big ones. The two presentations that I'm personally going to go back and watch again will be the one on land trust that Madison Community Land Trust and Sheckville did. And then we did have a speaker from Eagle County, Colorado, who spoke about their program, which is down payment assistance in combination with a resale restriction that looks an awful lot like a land trust, but is not a land trust. And they have some really interesting ways of qualifying people that have to work within Eagle County, Colorado, within a certain income range. That's where Vail is located. With a certain income range to qualify, and how they are able to do that within federal regulations regarding fair housing is really interesting. So I think maybe I'll go back and watch that again. I don't know that we need a presentation on that, but possibly good to get some notes on that, on how they do it.
Can you send when you find
Those
it?
links?
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you could.
definitely. Definitely. It's a good refresher.
So, I'm the only one I can think of and what's nice about the land trust is it's separate from the village and we don't have all the disclosure rules. So if it's somehow income comes into play or the tax return comes into play, it's private information within the land trust, whereas it comes to the village, it's public information. So when you talk about the rent assistance and the emergency, if we can think of a program that would benefit that, but the problem is that, hey, I got problems, here's my stuff, now everybody can look at it, and that becomes a problem, and I know we had some issues with that when we developed the existing housing fund. And it's public information, so I don't know how you get around it, and that's the downside of having that type of a assistance program.
One of the things I will mention is that October 7th through 9th, the Midwest Area Land Trust Conference is going to be in Madison. It's the first time they've had it here. I think registration is still open. Early bird registration is gone, but regular registration is open. And that's the 7th, 8th, and 9th. So I think I'm actually out of town for work that day, but Lauren and Kylie, maybe we can send you guys. Yeah. Yeah. We'll look into that. Yeah. Maybe pay for at least one of us in the committee to go to. So promises to be good. All right. Anything else you need from us? We just put a pile of work in it.
I was gonna say, I think that's enough. No.
Figure out
No, we like the work.
Down payment assistance.
No, this is very helpful because I think, we had a lot of ideas and now we're starting to focus on kind of what our priorities are. So I will definitely do some more research for the next meeting and we can continue discussing about both of those programs.
All right.
And something, I mean, I feel like we didn't chat about this
Anything
before, but
David
we
can
do
add?
have our development bus tour that we do every 3 years, which is going to be in October too. So if there maybe is a developer or someone in the field that we want to invite to that, that may be a good time for them to get a feel of the community, look around, even if it's someone from one of these organizations that we would be partnering with to bring something up. So keep that in mind too.
Fantastic. Do we have a date for that yet?
Well, we were talking about October 9th, but we haven't set anything in stone, so we'll get back to you.
Cool. All right.
Looks
All
like
right.
you guessed another,
Good thing nothing's set in stone.
Oh, I'm sorry, David. Thank you, Al, for reminding us. David, did you have any comments you would like to make? I guess not. All right, we'll just make him make twice as many comments in October. All right, thank you all very much. I don't think we have anything left on the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion, we close.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Ah, there he is. There he is. David, do you have anything you want to add? Any comments?
No, I think you've covered it pretty well. We just need to iron out some of those details like Al mentioned about public disclosure kind of thing. That's always an inhibitor to getting people to participate. So
All right,
worth exploring.
great. Thank you. All right, we'll see you all soon. Have a good night tonight.
Thank you. So,
See you next month.
isn't that like MIC?
Yeah.
Yeah.